Hey everybody, here we go with my 90 to 81. Hey there Brew Crew, and welcome back to my top 100 games of all time. Today we're going to jump right in with my number 90.
90.
Number 90 is Tiny Epic Galaxies, and this is its first year on my top 100. I haven't played too many of the Tiny Epic games, although I am a little intrigued by the new Tiny Epic Cthulhu that I just saw announced this week. Galaxies was one of the few that really caught my attention, and I was able to pick up a copy of it at Origins a couple years ago. There are a couple things that I really like about this game. The first being the way that you build up your civilization to be able to take bigger and better turns that will let you colonize more planets. The second is that whenever an opponent takes an action, as long as you have the culture to spend, you can follow that action and do it yourself as well. So if you plan well, you can have some super efficient turns, and it also keeps you engaged during other players' turns. It's also a fairly fast-playing game, which is also nice.
89.
Number 89 is Mombasa. This is a game that I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time talking about because I'm not really a fan of the theme, but the mechanisms in it are really solid. Now we've got Sky Mines on our to-play list soon, and I'm hoping it will take over this spot.
88.
Number 88 is Tuah. It was number 69 for me in 2019, 86 in 2020, and was just outside of my top 100 in 2021 and 2022. Now the reason that this one slid back in this year is because I had a chance to replay it again, this time with the Ladies of Tuah expansion, which added some things that I really liked. This game has a really great dice pool mechanism where everyone rolls their dice and places them in the center of the board, and then going around in turn order, everyone can choose which dice they want to use. They can even choose to use someone else's dice, but they have to pay for them. I have not had a chance to play Black Angel yet, and I'm curious if I would like it as much or if it would push the complexity level just a bit too high for my taste. Because part of what I like about Tuah is the fact that the rules are not super complex, despite there being a lot of tough decisions to make.
87.
My number 87 is Root. This is a really great asymmetric game about warring woodland creatures, and it also has some really awesome artwork by Kyle Farron. This game first made my list in 2021 at number 72, then bumped up to 51 in 2022. So it's fallen back down a bit, mainly because I haven't played it in a while, which tends to be the case with a lot of these games in the lower part of the list. I actually think that this game would be much higher on my list if I had the chance to play it more often. Because I think this is a game that I could really sink my teeth into. I'd love to try all the different factions and learn how to play to each of their strengths. As it is, though, this game is usually a bit of a pain to learn when we play it, because we play it so infrequently. So that's partly what keeps it down on the lower part of my top 100. But nevertheless, I think this is a really great game and a brilliant design that I can't wait to play again.
86.
Number 86 is Castell. I really love the different theme in this game. It's pretty unique compared to other games that I've played. You're traveling around Catalonia, training and recruiting Castellers to join your team and perform at festivals. There are certain rules you need to follow when it comes to how to build your towers of people, but training can help you by kind of allowing you to break some of those rules. You'll try to create the most impressive tower at these festivals to score points. I wasn't even aware that this was a thing until I read about the game and went searching online for more information. And I love when games make me do that. Show me something that I didn't know about before. Oddly enough, this is a game that I haven't heard too many people talk about outside of the comically large bag, but if you get a chance, I definitely recommend checking it out.
85.
Number 85 is a classic at this point, and that's Lords of Waterdeep. This is a really popular introduction to the worker placement genre, but it's also one that I continue to enjoy all these years later. This was a game that was 29 for me in 2019, 87 in 2020, just outside of my top 10 in 2021, and then jumped up to number 70 again in 2022. I think other worker placement games pushed it further and further down the list, but I think now I've gotten to a point with worker placement that I've learned to appreciate the simplicity of this game. If you're not familiar with Lords of Waterdeep, you are one of the Lords of Waterdeep from the Forgotten Realms setting of Dungeons & Dragons, and you are sending agents out all over the city to recruit adventurers, which you will send out to complete quests. One of my favorite things about the game is that you start off with a pretty limited number of spaces that you can use, but as the game goes on, players will build new spaces, which will give better resources, but also potentially give the owner of that building some kind of bonus. It's not an especially thematic game, as you're really just collecting cubes to fulfill recipe cards, but it's still a great worker placement game that I think still holds up after 11 years.
84.
Number 84 is Ostia, which is a game that I will admit I've only played once. And this is the first year it's been on my list, but this game's mechanism is what puts it onto the top 100 for me already. I love the Mancala mechanism in board games, and you'll see a few other games that use this mechanism much higher on the list. It's not a mechanism that I see used very often, but when it's done well, I really love the puzzle it creates. Now in this game, you're using the Mancala mechanism to send your ships around the harbor, collecting goods and resources to improve the harbor, and send your ships out to explore the world. I would say that it's probably the most streamlined of the Mancala games that I've played so far, unless you count Five Tribes as a Mancala game. The production in this game is also fantastic. We played the deluxe Kickstarter edition with our friends Evan and Missy, and it looks incredible. The art is gorgeous, and it has really nice screen printed pieces for the large ships and the buildings. I just wish it wasn't so hard to find.
83.
Number 83 is Eldritch Horror. In our earliest days of board gaming, Jen and I loved to play Arkham Horror together, and so it was no surprise that we loved Eldritch Horror from the first time we played it. Aside from getting a bump in 2020, when we were playing more cooperative games, this game has held pretty steady between the high 70s and low 90s. It's a big thematic game with lots of rules, but I still love the cosmic horror genre, and I really like how it's handled in this game. It's got a epic global scale with the events, and you travel all over the world to solve mysteries, close interdimensional gates, and fight monsters. We fell in love with board gaming playing co-ops like Arkham Horror and Pandemic, so it's no surprise to me that a game like Eldritch Horror has stuck around.
82.
My number 82 is Wonderlands War. So just like earlier when I said that I really like games with a Mancala mechanism, I also really like games that have me pulling tokens or other pieces out of a bag. There's something almost casino-like about pulling things from a bag and seeing if you get what you need. And if you don't get what you need, it's also fun to try to solve the puzzle of how do I make the best out of what I've got. This game also has one of my favorite covers of all time in board gaming, and all of the rest of the art is fantastic as well. In addition to the bag building aspect, there's also another mechanic that I tend to like a lot, which is the one-way track movement, similar to what you'd see in games like Glenmore or Francis Drake. Each turn gives you a difficult decision to make in terms of how far to move along the track to take what you want, but not leave too much behind for your opponents. This is a game that I don't own yet, but we backed the expansion with the base game on Kickstarter, and I'm hoping that it'll arrive soon.
81.
Okay, last on my list for this week, number 81 is Endless Winter, Paleo-Americans. This game has so many things going on, although it managed to do it while not feeling overly complex as far as rules go. It has worker placement, but there are only a few spaces to choose from. It has deck building, but there are only so many different types of cards that you need to worry about. It has an area control aspect, but the rules for it are pretty simple and straightforward. And there's track movement, but there are only a few tracks that you have to pay attention to. This game offers a lot of different flavors for people who like to try different mechanisms. And this was actually my best game of 2022. And I'm a little bit surprised that it didn't make it higher, but I really feel like it's just because I've played a lot of really great games, and I've made it to the point now where any game in my top 100 is a really great game, in my opinion, obviously. I will say that it is a tough game to recommend to too many people because the teach can be pretty long because of the amount of different mechanisms involved. But if you're no stranger to mid to heavy board games, I think it's definitely worth checking out. All right, everyone, thanks so much for hanging out for my 90 to 81 games of all time. Let me know what you think of these games, and be sure to check out my 100 to 91 video if you haven't seen that yet. Keep an eye out for the next video coming out next week, and until next time, let's get another round for the table.